So let's go ahead. Go to attack or melee attack, whatever that is, and dodge, and get a critical success on a critical failure. So critical attack succeeds. Attack succeeds with a critical success.
It's a star, isn't it?
And a critical failure on the dodge.
Yeah, but a critical success. Oh, right.
On the attack.
You're correct.
A
bottom
plus
left.
3, I think.
Okay.
A star 3?
Yeah, I think so.
Attacker strike 3.
Okay, so just wait on that for just a moment. Okay. So you see, we didn't have to do much with the numbers except those 4 results.
Yeah.
So we go straight to that table, and we have our outcome there.
I think I'm starting to get it, but let's go.
And so let's do a couple of things. For our skill rolls, you would have adjusted your roll by all the penalties, particularly injury, fatigue, and endurance, and what you're carrying. It's nice about being mounted because you take your physical penalty total and cut it in half. That's kind of nice.
Sure.
Yeah. Then you also reduce it if you are aiming. I mean, at anything except the body. There's a modifying thing. Now, you use the class attack or defense appropriately for the weapon. So once we have done this, now we're going to look at this strike. Okay, D would mean that the result tells you that the defender is able to do damage.
Because it only shows up in the counter strike.
Right. Nope. The number following the asterisk is the number of D6 that will be rolled to determine strike impact. That's the result of this roll. Okay, so let's do this. There's 3D6, right? So let's roll that guy's. Why don't you go ahead, Christian? That guy got an 8. Okay. So note impact dice and proceed to strike. Well, you know what? I think we were just supposed to set out the dice at that point. Fine. Strike resolution, strike location. We did that. We ended up at the abdomen because we rolled on the body chart. And then strike impact. Here we go. The impact roll from the combat table plus the weapon impact. You rolled an 8, correct? No, a 9?
8.
You rolled an 8. And so then plus the weapon impact. So that means 3 dice plus BEP.
Yes.
Yeah,
Which in this case is 4.
applicable. Yeah.
Which is 4. So that means that it would be 8 plus 4, which is 12. So there you go. This is the force actually delivered to the target, which would be after armor. So this is where armor saves you. It does say any effective impact of 1 or more has some effect. Right. So in other words, interesting. This is a detail, but it just lets you know they're thinking. Okay. So let's say you're wearing some kind of armor and you're hit, and it gets past the number of the armor, and if it doesn't get past 5 total, then that means that the armor, you've been hurt a bit, but the armor wasn't penetrated, so you've just been like wrenched or bruised, in there, or some degree of damage, but the armor is not harmed, or it got through a little bit of the armor, or like an opening, and so the armor doesn't start getting. You have to do a certain threshold of damage before the armor starts to be affected, but you can still be hurt underneath that threshold. So very, very detailed.
I will certainly read the rules.
Yeah, but they're pretty good, as you can see. They thought it out.
Yeah, I like it.
Sometimes this stuff is annoying, and then this time I'm going, oh, Oh, right.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see, injury determination, which is where we were headed.
Yeah.
This is where we were headed. Okay, finally. So what we do now, 3 basic levels of damage it's on the chart. I remember. You have blunt, edge, and piercing. You've got minor yellow, serious orange, and grievous red. So what color did we end up with? I believe we ended up at red.
Yes.
Unfortunately. And injury points for each level are noted on the injury table.
But is
Look
that
at the
really-
injury point. What does it?
But as I understand it, because we calculated
Right, that was the impact.
that was
right?
the impact, and it was 12.
Mm-hmm.
Then if we were wearing like,
But
for
we're
example,
not, right?
with no armor,
Right. Uh-huh.
12 is the impact
So-
result.
Uh-huh.
It should be in the 7
And-
plus
Right.
column,
Uh-huh.
and it hit the abdomen.
Right.
E3 should be the
Okay, and
result.
then that's
That's
orange, right?
Yeah, orange shock roll.
okay. We'll get to E3 in just a moment. Okay, so it says E3. Is that correct?
Yes.
And that's all.
Yep. That's
Oh,
all.
okay. Thank God. And so we go. That's a shock roll. So we go to shock. So we don't have to worry about amputation or instant kill or bleeding wounds.
I usually don't go with amputation when just blunt force trauma on the abdomen.
By the way,
You're not doing it enough.
what's your strength? What's your strength?
15.
Right. He took 12. His strength is 15. He is not knocked back 1 hex.
Okay.
All right. It must be above.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, and that also means you stumble. You have to do your stumble check. Like you're strong enough that it just hit you, but you
Yeah.
didn't stop. You didn't get knocked
I
back.
took the hit.
Yeah. Unfortunately,
Yeah,
maybe a
but-
little
Yeah.
alleviation in physics would have been a good idea. Well, that's what a dodge was. Yeah, that didn't work. You dodged right into it.
Yeah.
And so a number, okay. Injury and fatigue points divided by 10. Okay, so you're going to actually now have an endurance index of 1. So I'm not quite sure. Yeah, endurance index. So there it is.
Yeah.
Right, you would now have a 1. And okay, so now we go to the shock roll. It says E3, what correct? So that's 3 dice. And you add your index, your endurance index. And so that's 3 dice 6 plus 1. So go ahead and roll that. Total is 11. All right. And so what does that mean? If the modified result exceeds endurance, the character is unconscious. Otherwise, there is no effect. So what's your endurance? Or what is your,
Endurance is 16.
right. So you took a hit that actually could have doubled over and taken out a weaker person. And maybe not even that weaker, because 12 is not that bad, right? And so yeah, he's so you actually take no effect, except the endurance index persists. So, and then, so actually you didn't get destroyed at all. Right, you just took a hit.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
During training,
It's
completely
what else?
normal.
What else do we do? Right.
Yeah, it was basic training.
Now, okay, I'm kind of liking this. So we're good on that particular sequence. But you know what the cool thing? Aside from spot penalties and stuff, which I mentioned a few just so we knew they were there, it doesn't get any harder. I mean, it's just from that point on. I mean, there's things like bleeding and stuff like that, but which means your endurance index progresses. But sooner or later you end up unconscious or decapitated or something.
That's good.
So yeah. But yeah, to do an instant kill in this game, you need a precision strike on a with a good solid hit. I mean, you need their penalty to be dropped way down so that they will have a really good chance for a fumble, for a critical failure.
But there would have been a physical penalty because of the weight of the weapon carried, or?
In this case, there would be, yes. But at this point, these are two unarmored guys fighting
Yeah.
with staffs. I'm pretty sure there's no
Yeah.
no penalty. Although we better get good at the load
Yeah.
calculation
I'm,
pretty soon.
Yeah.
Actually, I
have
think-
five things on me.
Right, and I think, well, no, you're not carrying all those things.
If I'm out on an adventure, I will be carrying at least more than one, at least.
Well, correct. Yeah.
At least like 2 or 3, at least. I always have to check the different amounts.
That's right. Yeah.
That's a nice thing that I can. That's an incentive for not carrying that much around.
Yeah.
It also provides that sort of dramatic moment when two people are getting ready to fight and they take off like they have their backpacks or
Yeah.
something. In this game, there's a reason,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
But there's something I noted in armor protection was that even the very best armor in the game, the superior plate armor, it has a B value of 8. So that's at 12 result. It's very good. It
Yeah.
penetrates all armor in the game.
If it batters you, you're going to feel it. There is no force field armor,
No.
right? Which just soaks up.
Well, enchanted armor.
There is that.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Per level of you can just increase it
Yeah.
per level of enchantment, so I suppose indefinitely.
But I hope we don't see that.
But I will say that the fellow that you're sparring with, who happens to be one of the crew of that ship, because remember I said you guys were mingling,
Yeah.
and they seem eager for normality. They're really good people, right? And they're sort of socializing and. Can I jump in? Right? Oh, staffs, is it? Okay, right? And so,
Oh no, they're gonna kill us.
no, and so you are. Who knows? Maybe you're there, like eating an onion, right? Watching this.
Yes, and I've learned about the second ship.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least the rumors about the second ship.
Exactly. And so you, of course, have not been hearing rumors and things because you've been busy getting whopped with the staff.
And whopping.
And do you want to take your turn? We're dealing with sort of an abstract opponent at this time. I'm just going to use his numbers.
Yes.
Except for the physicality, I'm going to give the guy basically 12s and everything.
Yeah.
Relevant.
But
Because-
that would make it total sense that they would choose a guy of the similar skill level set.
Absolutely. Right.
For his training.
Some in fact, Brion is probably, overseeing this from up on the wall, right? Is kind of overseeing this. And the guy who's basically just like you, except more skilled, would have said something like, all right, you're up, and looks around and says something like, who's working, who needs work with the staff, right? And somebody says, oh, I'm me, right? And so that's why we're putting you at the same level.
Yeah. And I'm sitting there slicing my potato.
Absolutely. That's right. It was a potato,
Yeah.
I recall. And so, no, that's absolutely correct. Even in fact, just as you were saying, you were kind of collecting information, right, during this time. It makes perfectly good sense that you're sort of treated as casual part of one of these unconstructed group conversations, right? That is kind of bouncing from person to person through it's not a huge throng, but there's at least 6 or 7 people standing around or, limbering up and stuff like that.
Yeah. I am on a gather of information. Perhaps that's my trade.
Perhaps.
A part-time trade.
Mm-hmm.
Well, nobody suspects the beggar.
No, I'm looking out for survival. So
I'm trying to think of a good word. In English, a perfect word is layabout.
yeah.
Right? He's a layabout. Here we go. Remember? I had these out. And even in one bigger one, too, as I recall, which I'll find in a moment. Here's what I wanted, was my journal page. Oh, man, and you didn't even, clean the room right.
No,
It wasn't terrible.
I didn't set anything on fire.
No, but but you gained no prizes for
No,
merit badge acolyte of the week. Not this time. Right?
You have like a list of who's going to get sacrificed in your name. You just put down.
Exactly. Oh.
That's motivation.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I quite like this little town, but I don't really quite see, as these things go, the keep seems a little minimal, unless we count all of this as the keep, right? These heavier buildings, right? Mm-hmm. And that actually makes a little bit of sense. They do all look fortified along that road, don't they?
Yeah.
And there's a tower there on the...
Yeah. I think we're going to call this the keep, right? Yeah. In which case, you wouldn't be like in this main courtyard area.
No.
I'm just deciding whether you're like in this really heavily walled little spot, which seems really enclosed and claustrophobic almost, or whether they would just have you like out there. I mean, what's wrong with, going out into the big open area? Who cares if everybody can see you guys training? It's probably, a valuable visual for the constable to see the men at arms, whopping each other with sticks is reasonable.
Yeah, reminding the locals who's in charge here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And look, that's your son in with my guys from Golota, right?
Yeah.
Training with us, right? That actually makes sense. Yeah. Okay. So I figure you're just probably out there by the water, even, right? There's a
That's nice.
and this isn't a boat. I mean, here's the docking for the boats. This might be rarely here and here when they need to pull a boat up, but for the most part, this might even be more like where people go and splash, right? If they want to.
Yeah, with the wash clothes and
fixed
nets and so on.
Exactly. And I wonder, and like the people who live here or do things here, is this like where they like clean the fish guts and if you have animals to unload, maybe there's stables. Oh look, right, stables and things right over there. So this is kind of the processing center for organic.
Tanning hides.
Yeah, exactly. All right, I like that village. Okay. So here we go. We are now at the moment. I think we've cleared the third watch. Now I was thinking about you.
Yeah.
Because, Eric, you're doing what? Okay, so.
Following strangers.
I know.
Following strangers.
I'm going to go lurk after this guy. How easy is he to stab at present? Okay, see, here's the thing with Eric. His character, the guy wants to go into, technically all the way over into these marshes, but that's a little ways of a hike, right? Mm-hmm. So from Waseda, they're going to have to take a little road. And do you see this river outlet into the ocean right here?
Not from here.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. And do you see that there's kind of a little, there's a few buildings there, which only makes sense. But these aren't sophisticated buildings. From the keep's point of view, they're totally expendable if anybody were to attack. And, if a hostile ships appeared or something, everybody there would just go running to the keep. Yeah. Right? And so, but they do something important. It's a river outlet to the ocean. They've got jobs.
Kelp farmers.
Yeah, exactly. And also maintenance of the bridge, right? And which is what you guys would be going over in your wagon.
Yeah.
And and then from there, it's still going to be, you're going to have to stay overnight.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. The idea is you guys would ride the wagon over and then maybe spend the day. Probably, you know what? You see that area is a little more green? Mm. He wants to go to the border of that green area and the marshes. Mm. And he would have been given instructions by David.
Mm-hmm. But didn't we end like in a church?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
I just wanted to kind of specify the precise spot, which it seems to me that river outlet with its bridge and the few buildings and people working there were a perfect.
I like it.
because it's halfway. And I mean, I was looking, a couple hours to get there, right? So, so that brings us to the beginning of the fourth watch. Is coping with you. You were working out throughout this watch. So, do we want to? Is everybody feeling it coming off of Philip? He wants his attack now.
Yeah, I want to hit back.
I was just like, and then we'll go to the fourth. No, we're not going to the fourth watch. I felt it.
Fair is fair.